Welcome back to the channel, and in today's tutorial I'm going to be showing you guys how to make a Pokeball in Blender step by step. Now this is more of a, I guess, beginner to intermediate level tutorial, and because there is a lot of things to cover, I'll be going relatively quick, but I'm not going to be time-lapsing anything. So, you know, I already expect that you know the basics of Blender and you know what a lot of the default things are as we're getting into this tutorial. That said, I will be uploading this final blend file to my Patreon. So those of you who support the channel on the Patreon, you'll be getting access to this blend file. So I think I've said enough. Let's jump in, let's make this, and I hope you guys enjoy. With a new scene open up in Blender, let's select all the default objects and press delete. We're then going to go Shift A. Let's go to our mesh options, and under our mesh options, we'll just go ahead and add in a UV sphere. With our UV sphere here selected, let's go into our front orthographic view. And let's go into edit mode. And I'm going to just enable the X-ray up here quickly by toggling it on. And I select all of these bottom verts, and I'm going to go X and delete vertices. So we only have half a sphere left. And you can see here it's sitting right on our floor. I'm going to toggle off the X-ray again. Then I'm going to go over to the modifiers. Click on add modifier and click search, and then type in MIRR. Click on mirror, and then turn off the X and enable the Z. And now it's mirrored like so. So what we're going to do is we're going to go into our front orthographic view again. Let's just go Shift Alt and left click on this edge to select it, and let's just go double tap. So double tap G, and let's just slide it up, something like this. Then let's come here to the add modifier, search, and type in sub. Let's get a subdivision surface. And then what we're going to do, we're going to go back into object mode. We're going to right click and go shade smooth. And if this is active, we're going to go Shift D to duplicate. We're going to right click to let go. And we're going to go S and just scale this inside bit down a little bit till it's about this size. Then tab into edit mode with this new selection, and then just select this edge and go E to extrude and Z and just move it down to about here, just so there's a small gap. Okay, just something like that. And then tab back out. And then what we're going to do is we're going to, in our front view, we're going to go Shift A, we're going to add in a cylinder. Let's go to add cylinder options. Let's make this something like, I think we'll go for 38 vertices. I'm going to close this here. Then we're going to go RX90 and hit enter. And then let's go S and scale this. And then in our right orthographic view, we're going to go G and Y and move it forward till it's sitting in here. So in the front, it's embedded like so. And this is where we're going to make the front button part, or the area where the shell is kind of cut away. So we're going to scale it about this much. And I've looked at different references of Pokeballs, and some are a little bit different, but more or less this is kind of like the size we're looking for. We're then going to select the outer shell, and we're going to come over to the subdivision surface, just drag it to the top. And we're going to come to the drop down and apply that. And then we're going to go add modifier, search, and type in Boolean, so B-O-O. Click on Boolean, and then click on the eyedropper, and then select the cylinder. And now it's cutting a hole in there. So we're going to select the cylinder and just press H for now to hide it. Then we'll select our outer shell. We'll go to add modifier and click here and search and type in solid. And click on solidify. And then let's just come here to this thickness parameter, and I'm going to drag mine into the positives here, so it goes inwards in this case. And that's all going to depend on your normals, which way it's going in, but we want it going inwards like this. And with a thickness like this, we're just going to right click and we'll go shade auto smooth. And what we'll do now that we have that with some thickness, we'll come to our Boolean and we'll drag it to the top of the modifier stack. We'll turn off the mirror for now. And we'll come here to the Boolean that we've just dragged to the top, and we'll go ahead and apply that. And now let's just go over down to our mirror here. This is enable that again in the viewport display. You can go Alt H just to bring back that cylinder and select it, and then just press delete to delete it. Also, if you get some of this weird shading here, what you can do, you can go add modifier, search, and just type in weld. Give this a weld modifier, and then just make sure to take the weld and drag it to the top like so, and then just bump this up just a little bit till we get rid of some of those overlapping verts. Now that's looking a lot cleaner. So now we've made our Pokeball shell here. Let's now grab the inside shell, and let's go to our modifiers, and let's just go add modifier, search, type in solid, and give it a solidify. And with this one, let's adjust that thickness parameter. I'm gonna give it a little bit of thickness. I'm also gonna right click, and I'm just gonna go shade auto smooth on that one, like so. And then in our front orthographic view, we're gonna go Shift A, and I guess we could have probably kept that cylinder earlier, but I'm just gonna go ahead and add in a cylinder. add cylinder settings here. I'll just make it 32 in this case. And I'm going to go RX90, hit enter, and then S to scale. I'm going to scale it down like so, and then go G, Y, and move it forward. I'm going to place it right about here. And then I'm going to tab into edit mode. I'm going to go to face select and select this face, and go G, Y, and move it back. And then I'm going to go I to insert it, like so, and then click. And then E to extrude again to extrude it out. And now let's go to our modifiers. I'm going to click here and search and just type in bevel and give it a bevel modifier. And then bring this amount down and bump up the segments. Let's go with something like 3. I'm going to tab back out, right click and go shade smooth. And let's also just give it a subdivision surface modifier, just for good measure. And now that's looking really good. So in the object mode, you can always scale it a little bit if you wanted to, but that is what we have so far. So now let's just go Shift A. Let's just add in a cylinder, and I'm in the right orthographic view. I'm going to go RY90. I'm going to hit enter. Then I'm going to go G, Y, and move it back, and go S to scale. And I'm just going to make a little hinge. So I'm just going to place the cylinder here. I'm going to scale it down a bit more. Then S, X to scale along the X. Then I'm going to go Control A, and I'm just going to apply that scale. And one thing I might do with the outer shell is I might just come here and go Shift, and with the edge select in edit mode, I'm going to go Shift, Alt, and left click on this edge. And just make sure to select these two little bits here. So the whole edge at the bottom is selected. I'm just going to go E to extrude and Z and just extrude it down just a little bit, just to kind of close that gap a bit more. And with this cylinder at the back, you can go and give that a modifier. Just give it a bevel if you wanted to, and just kind of decrease the size, give it some more segments. And if you wanted to add some decorative features, you could just kind of select these guys and inset them, and press E to extrude, and then S and X to extrude them in. That's all additional optional things you can do. I'm really going to keep this simple. We're not really going to see this too much anyway, but it's just something simple like that. But you get the basic idea of this little hinge at the back. So what we can do now is in our front view, we're going to go A to select everything. We can go G and Z and move it up, something like this. Then let's go Shift A and add in a cylinder. Let's go S, Z and flatten it, and then go Control A and just make sure to apply the scale. And then we'll just move it up a little bit, and I'm going to give this a bevel modifier under the modifiers, and I'm just going to up the segments. I'm going to go and also give it a subdivision surface, and right click and go shade smooth. And then in edit mode, I'll just go to the face select the top face and press I to insert it, and then E to extrude up a little bit. And now we have this sort of cool looking thing. We're also going to go Shift A and under our mesh options add in a torus. In edit mode, go Alt S and just scale the normals and just scale it down like this, and then click, tab back out, and then let's just move it and scale it down. And with this one, I'll probably go to my modifiers and just type in array and give it an array modifier. And I'm going to set it to 1 on the Z and 0 on the X. And I guess I might have to drag it up more than 1, so something like that. And then just increase the count. And now we have some of these going up like so. You can have as many or as little as you want. I guess now we have this. I'm going to right click and just go shade smooth. And then we're going to go Shift A. We're going to add in a plane. We're going to go S to scale it up nice and big. And then let's just get a nice looking position. I'm going to go something like this. I'm going to go Control A. I'm going to go add in a camera, and then pressing 0 with camera selected. I'm just going to go into camera view and then G, middle mouse button, and move it back. If that's too hard for you, just go into the viewport display and press G and just move it. And just get a position that you like. So in camera view, I'm going to go something. And what I'm going to do now is I'm going to apply all of these modifiers for the outer shell. Everything except the shade smooth by angle. And then I'm going to just select the shell. I'm going to go into edit mode and just select all of the top topology like so. And then I'm going to go P and separate that selection. I'm going to tab back out, and I'm just going to select the top shell. I'm going to press H to hide it. Then I'm going to select the inside shell, and with the shell, inner shell here selected, we're just going to go to modifiers and apply just the mirror. Then tab into edit mode and just select the top topology and go P and separate that selection. Tab back out and then Alt H to bring back the outer shell. And then just select the inner shell at the top and the holding and shift select the upper one. And then while you're still holding and shift, select this hinge and then go Control P and just go Object Keep Transform. Now if we select this guy over here and we go RX, we can rotate it like so. So going R, X, you can see we can rotate that. Pretty cool. For now, I'm just going to go Control Z just to undo that. I'm also going to select the button, and holding in Shift, I'll select this hinge as well and go Control P and keep the transform. And then I'll select this little hinge here, just go Control A and just apply the rotation. And then I'm going to go R, X and just rotate it and just give it something like this, just so we can kind of see it better. Then in the camera view, I'll grab my camera and just adjust it a slight amount, like so. And I might go to my camera properties and give it a focal length of 130. And I'll move my camera back a little bit. And now let's go over to our render properties. Let's change this to cycles. Then under your render max samples, let's give it something like 50, should be fine. And then what we're going to do is we can go Shift A, we're going to go to our light options, add in an area light and go G, move it up. I'm going to rotate mine in a bit, and under my light properties, I'm going to give it a strength of 200 and I'm going to increase the size to 3 meters. So now if I go Z and I go rendered, I can see this is what I have. And at this point, you can go Shift D to duplicate your light and you can rotate it. So I might have one kind of coming from the back. And I'm going to go Shift D again, double tap R, or just rotate it and have one kind of coming from the front. And I'll give the strength on that something like 120. Okay, so this is just sort of my simple lighting setup here. Nothing too fancy. And what we're going to do now is we're going to grab the outer shell at the top and we're going to go to our materials and we're going to go new. And let's call this red shell outer. Let's select the bottom shell and let's give that a new material and call it white shell lower. And then let's grab the inner shell here and let's just go new and let's just call it shell inner. And let's just grab this bottom inner shell and come to the drop down here and give it that same shell inner material. And then let's now grab the button and go new and let's call it button. And there we have it. So now let's go over to our shading workspace and let's go Z and then go rendered. And let's grab the top shell, the one we called red shell outer. Let's go over here to our nodes and go Shift A, search and get a noise texture. Let's plug it into the base color here. Let's go Shift A, search and get a ramp by typing it in. Place the color ramp on here. Move this up, and then what we're going to do, we're going to drag these two values a little bit closer to each other. And then we're going to come here to the scale and make it 12, and let's take the detail up a little bit as well. So I might drag this up just a bit more. There we go. And with that done, I'm going to go Shift A, search and get another ramp. Place this one over here, and then I'm going to drag this up, and I'm going to make it kind of like a dark red. So still keeping a darker value, but more of a dark red. And then I'm going to grab this one here and drag it down. Make it more of a lighter red. And I might have to make some slight adjustments here or there. And what I'm going to do here, I'm going to come to the roughness and increase that as well. And I might make this red over here a little less dark in the value. Something like that. Okay, so now we have a nice bit of texture to that. It's looking pretty good, but to make this look even better, let's just go and drag the color into the roughness of the first one over here. And let's go Shift A, search and get a bump. And let's take that color and plug it into the height and then plug this normal into the normal of the principled. And let's make this a strength of 0.05 or maybe even 0.02. There we go. So now we have an outer shell material. If you wanted to, you could go ahead and duplicate this principled shader, make it fully metallic, and then come up here and go Shift A, search and get a mix shader, place it on here. Let's plug the bottom into here of the mix shader. Let's come and bring the roughness down on the bottom principled and make sure it's fully metallic. There we go. And what we're going to do, we're going to take this, and what we're going to do, we're going to duplicate this color ramp over here. Take the factor and plug it into here, and then take this color and plug it all the way into the mix shader. And then let's just drag these values kind of closer together, like so. And now we have these little flecks of metal where the paint is kind of like worn away. Okay, so I might just adjust it a little bit more. There we go. Now you can kind of see that coming through. That's looking a lot better. And I might just come here to the base color here on the bottom principled make the value a little bit darker. But another thing we can do is we can go over here to our principled output and go Shift A search and get a displace. There we go. Plug the displacement into displacement of the material output. And then let's come here and take this color of this new ramp we made and plug it into the height. And let's come here and make the scale 0.01. And now that's really looking better. We could also go Shift A search and just get an invert color and place it on here, just so it inverts that. So the areas where it's kind of corroded is where we can see the metal the most. And you can always come here and adjust some of the parameters on the slider here to adjust where the metal's kind of coming through. But that's a simple kind of worn material that you can make. Pretty cool. And I might just come here to the scale on the noise and bump it down to 5. Okay, so that's the top of the Pokeball. So what we're going to do now is we're just going to come over here and select all of these nodes and right click and go copy. Then let's select the bottom shell. And we already created the shell inner. We're just going to select these nodes and press delete, and then right click and go paste. And then just come here to the top color ramp and let's just make these values over here. Make sure they're light and make them white like this. Grab this one here, make it lighter. There we go, kind of coming through like so. And let's come over here to this bottom principled, make that value a bit lighter. And now we have that bottom shell. And let's also grab the inner shell. We created that shell inner material. Let's delete these nodes as well, or right click and go paste. And let's just come here then and make these guys on the color ramp much darker. There we go. And make sure that they're not red. There we go, something like this. And I might just come here to the principled at the bottom and make that metal a lot darker. So now we have this, and let's grab that button. And with the button here, we'll probably just come here to the drop down and let's just swap it out with that shell lower. So it shares the same material. I think that just works pretty good. And then with this hinge back here, I'm just going to go ahead and give that same shell inner material. And that's about it. So now let's work on some of the surrounds. So I'm going to grab this bottom plate and go new. And I'm going to give this a nice metallic value, bring down the roughness. Then I'm going to select this group of rings. I'm going to come to the drop down and give it that same material I just created. And I'll probably just name that metal. And maybe give it a little bit more roughness. There we go. And then what you add to the floor is completely your choice. You could just go ahead and add another shader, but I've already got a material that I want to use. So I'm just going to go ahead and append it into Blender. And this is just something I got off the internet for free. And I'm going to click on the ground here, come to the drop down, and I'm just going to get my material. But like I said, you can add whatever material you want to this. But this is the procedural material I'm going to go with. And then what I'll probably do is I'll go to my world environment. I'm going to kind of make it a little bit more bluish, I think. Make it a bit darker. And then with my camera selected, I'm also going to go to my camera properties. I'm going to click on depth of field. I'm going to click on the eyedropper and then select the Pokeball. And then just come to the f-stop here and bring it down till we got this sort of nice soft focus and the background becomes a lot softer. And I think one more thing I'll do is I'll just select one of these rings, or maybe I'll have to just go to the modifiers first and apply that array. I'll just go in here and select one of these rings and go Shift D to duplicate, S to scale it, bring it down a little bit. And with this one, I'll go to my materials, go plus, assign, create a new one over here, and I'm just going to come to the surface and I'll make it emission and give it a strength of 12 and then make it blue. So now if I go into rendered, I see I have this nice sort of glow over here coming from the bottom. And also I might just select some of my lights and make them a little bit bluish under the light properties. But there's all sorts of things you can try out. So this is pretty much how I made this. I'm going to move this over here and I'll go back to my layout. That is how I made a Pokeball in Blender. So I will be uploading this final result to my Patreon. And I hope you guys have enjoyed this. If you feel like some of this grunge here is a little bit too much, you could always go back into the materials. and then just make your adjustments accordingly if that's what you want to do. But I think this result here looks pretty good. So what we'll do now is we'll quickly go render and render image and give this a test render. And there we have it. I hope you guys have enjoyed, and I'll see you next time. Thank you for watching.